Welcome back to the highest level of Beyond All Reason in a 1v1 showdown between two of the top commanders in the game. And the game itself, Beyond All Reason, inspired by Total Annihilation. Absolutely free to play, but it will cost you much of your free time. Though you can make that a little more efficient by just watching. If you smash the like button and maybe even subscribe and help me counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? 510 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Our first commander in the red in the top left, it's Contra as Armada, and he has a bot lab already to kick things off. And in the blue in the bottom right, it's BARCastTV, also Armada, but has a vehicle plan. And in 1v1, since you don't have access to any teammates, from 1 to 39 other ones, as we've seen in the past, you only have access to this faction's units. But because 1v1 is so focused around early unit production, map control, there's a lot of space out there to claim, or reclaim when it comes to the metal. How you go about it in those early tech units is incredibly important. Many 1v1 games don't even make it past tier 1 tech, as very simply having a small advantage can easily open up into a game-ending one. And claiming those early metal extractors scattered throughout the map, we already see Contra sending out those construction bots, waddling across, picking some up. Both players using their commanders to build up their base from their starting location, as opposed to sending them out early, as the commander has by far the most build power of anyone in the game. Or anyone in the early game, at least. Or unit, rather. Now, the advantage of the vehicle plan is your units in general are stronger, faster, harder, some might argue better. The constructors have more build power, and can move faster to claim metal extractors. But you lack general mobility. The bots on their 2 legs, definitely cheaper, a little weaker overall, but can move to surround and move up and down hills and do other things that, you have legs, many of you, and even if you don't, you can imagine. Or maybe you identify as a Apache attack helicopter or a Rascal scout vehicle. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to commentate, which is a little easier in 1 versus 1, I will say, than in 40 versus 40, for example. So we can get a little more into the, as they say, strategy of this real-time strategy game. So both sides, both building up Rascals for BARCast. I think it's very important. I'm going to try to jump to the player view a little more often. Going to the BARCast cam, we see how little vision there is out on the map. And the fight over vision and radar and just keeping that intel all the time, it's a little misleading from the observer perspective. Just seeing everything at once. But being in the dark is a big part, especially of the early game on massive maps like this. Now, getting metal is everything. Alright? Everything is made out of metal. Dreams, Thors, and metal extractors themselves. Without it, you can't really get anything done. So in the top right, you can see metal per second. And whoever has control of that overall will likely be able to produce way more units. And then energy per second is used both to fire weapons from higher tech stuff, and more importantly, to build those units with metal. Then you have build power, which is how quickly you can jam those things together and make what you want. So those 3 resources kind of intertwined are how you make a strong strategy and go about your build in Beyond All Reason, which relatively simple and reasonable, but it gets real complicated real fast. Other little trackers we have up there, metal produced in total throughout the match, pretty decent indicator of how much they've gotten done. Energy produced, current army value, including the commander in metal. Commander's worth about 1250. Defense value, like turrets and such. Mostly turrets, I think. And then just damage overall. So, with a little more time to break things down, let's take a look how the early game has gone. Between both players, you see them scattered around when we remove the UI. The Rascals have been replaced by the early Blitzes, the fast assault tank out of Armada. Meanwhile, the Pawns are moving to close the distance, but Blitzes can easily cut them down. Armada defined, especially in the early game, by a lot of fast firing, yet relatively inaccurate units, as you see here. The blitzes and pawns exchanging fire. Eventually the blitz is able to counter it, but not doing as well as I thought it would against the pawns. There was recently a balance change that mostly affected early game 1v1, where, in general, the economies between Cortex and Armada were brought a little bit more in line in the early game cost. Before, Cortex was better building solar panels significantly in terms of efficiency. Now, Armada's a little closer, but same with Cortex on wind turbines. Not going to get into the details of the economy, but also some of the changes, I'll be honest, there were a lot of them affecting the units, making pawns a little more capable, though a little more expensive. And now we're already seeing a variety of those early vehicles. And I think before anything more gets established, we could talk about the upcoming 1v1 tournament as well. I'm assuming, Jimmy, we're posting this before, I believe it's April 12th, I want to say. Though you can check the Discord if you'd like more info, of course. But there will be a 1v1 tournament. Anybody can participate. And even if they can't, they can definitely watch live. And the beauty of Bar is you don't need some silly YouTuber to wait for them to bring the game to you. You can actually watch in the game most of the time. The tournaments might have more restrictions on that. It's not uncommon to see games with 10, 20, sometimes up to 50 people spectating them, even if there are less people actually playing the game. And then you can click on whatever you're interested in and miss all the massive base explosions to your heart's content. But more pawns cutting off the blitzes as the build-up phase is continuing. So far, the metal per second is about equal. BARCast has a slight advantage in terms of energy. The wind total on this map is 10 average wind speed, making wind turbines technically a more efficient option than solar panels, but they're still a little unreliable. Interesting, there's also a tidal generator or a tidal power counter, which means these pools in the middle may very well end up being a source of energy. I don't think 15 is particularly high. I'm not sure the math on it exactly. Technically, you can move your commander or build some constructors like hovercraft down there. The exchanges continue. Going to the Contra player view. See, still very much in the dark. The radar spotting some of the run-bys, but another thing about Bar, especially in 1v1, that units, sometimes you're just not going to be able to get units in time where they need to be. Like, units can't blink across the map, they can't recall or teleport for the most part. So if you don't have units on that side of the map to deal with a incoming run-by, damage will be done. Just having things generally in this... Wait. Does he not see that? He knows they're up there, right? Yes, he has radar. Can he not hit that? I believe the angle is too Aw, a love story. Maybe they hate each other. They're just wondering, they're just waiting to push the other one down into the blitzes. I'm not sure what to make of this. But he's king of the hill right now. The pawn's gonna run down. Maybe the turret can hit him, but because of the angle, none of the weapons... Oh, he finds a couple constructors. Actually, quite a pick-off. Getting those constructors is expensive, and not having the build power out there. The pawns will move by. More pawns over to the left side, and... Well, there's still a lot of reclaim on the ground. A lot of metal wrecks. If he's so interested, like... Whenever most units, when they die, leave a wreck worth about 70% of the metal left over on the ground that you can reclaim, or you can use resbots to resurrect and essentially claim that unit as your own, which can be a huge part, especially of the later game. Well, at all parts of the game, both of them are very useful. More constructors taken out. These pawns are just knocking them all across the board. And Contra really using the cheap, expendable nature of the pawns. I mean, they're literally called pawns. I know if you were more of a Total Annihilation fan, well, how are the reading glasses? But that, I think Pee-wee's was the name. But honestly, Beyond All Reason is my first real interaction. What? I'm sorry. No spectators from the past. I'm the only one who's allowed to commentate here. It's in the rules. BARCast has reclaimed his vehicle plant. It takes time, but you get all the resources. Wait, I take it back. He did not reclaim. Actually, I think he... Either way, he has an aircraft plant as well. Bringing the gunships in, and there's no dedicated anti-air. Now I'm saying it. The pawns can shoot up, but they're incredibly inaccurate at it. And Contra now has some blitzes that he resurrected on his side of the map. The new Banshee. Yes, the Banshee, literally called the Banshee, has almost exactly the same role the Banshee does in StarCraft 2. As a light gunship used to pick apart places that have limited anti-air with intense mobility. Meanwhile, the Blitz is moving forward to the north. And we see the lines drawn. From BARCast's perspective, there's still a lot of a no man's land out in the top right corner. From Contra's perspective, he definitely has more control of the map, but again, a concerted push from the vehicles may be able to break through almost any location. But he's countered with an aircraft plant of his own. He actually has all three portions of the Triforce of Bar. The aircraft plant, the bot lab, and the vehicles. Tier 1 so far, as the Tier 2 labs are an obscene cost of metal. For example, right now, both players have 5.6 and 6.6 thousand metal in army, including the commander, respectively. A Tier 2 bot lab, for example, costs 2,900 metal. That's half the cost of the current army on the field. And Tier 2 units may be incredibly good, but in that time, you may lose so much map control it doesn't matter. And your opponent might get the advantage and be able to get Tier 2 even more quickly. In fact, that's, in my opinion, the most interesting... There's a lot of super interesting parts that make Bar a true strategy game. But the fact you can build things at the speed of your resource income and build power, as opposed to having a set timer, like say how long it takes to build a marine in StarCraft 2. I guess Age of Empires isn't a great example, as you can build buildings more quickly with more workers. But there are no diminishing returns on build power here. The Banshees overhead, which will never not be confusing for me, but since they have the same role again. Now the Blitzes from Contra, firing up into the sky with their projectiles, but only occasionally hitting. Only dedicated anti-air units are really reliable. Some stout tanks, pretty much the strongest front 9 Tier 1 you can get as Armada. I guess the Centurions from the bot lab. But the medium assault tanks. Meanwhile, engaging over to the bottom left corner as well. The lines are drawn, but now being crossed on either side. The Banshees tickling most of the blitzes, and now just driving right through the stouts, trying to get some extra flanking damage as well, coming in from multiple angles. And so far, just driving by. Some pawns mixed in. The triple tech for ZFC really breaking through now. He's got a 28% metal income advantage as well. Really pressing that map control into a real economic advantage. Another Banshee is taken down. More tanks driving right through. A blitzkrieg, if you would. And even with a few light laser turrets, it's not enough. The ZFC making a lot of progress here. Is there a reason for it? No Tier 2 bot lab. BARCast is just losing ground across the board. He's lost everything to the eastern flank. He's starting to lose the southwest as well, as another group of bonds and blitzes will drive right by. And the stouts are not able to cover enough ground to stop them. Like, they could beat them in a 1v1 fight, but the blitzes are just not taking a fight. A few fighters come in to knock the Banshees out of the sky. Constructors getting intercepted yet again. And it's going from bad to somewhat significantly worse right now for the blue player. As Jimmy, why do we take so long? Trying to find his way in. There's no... The reason why the wind turbines are spread out like this is to prevent any sort of chain reaction. BARCast with some great... just a good general rule to have a bit of a spread there. Not exactly the same as in larger team games, but when you don't have to worry about getting in your teammate's face minimizing potential damage is obviously a priority. So now, the map is scattered with wrecks and units and metal extractors taken on either side. We see the fighters starting to patrol around the left flank, looking for any sort of potential air. I was gonna say run by, but that sounds fly by. Air constructors as well, working on more metal extractors, but the stouts. Technically, the army value is higher for BARCast. He has stronger units, he just has to bring them to bear. More pawns running by. There's resbots out down the center, looking for an opportunity to do what their essentially job description is. They can also reclaim, but the resurrection ability is unique to resbots, to my understanding. There's not even like a tier 2 unit can do it. It's just the lowly Lazarus. Okay, it says stealthy res, repair, and reclaim, which I believe means it doesn't show up on radar, but you can still see it when it's standing right in front of you. There is a lot. There's 2.2 thousand metal on the ground right now. Will he start resurrecting or just reclaim? He's just grabbing as much metal as possible, and that's a lot of metal on the ground, covering with the rest of the army. The mixed bag of tanks, blitzes, pawns, but he's going to target more stouts moving around the side. Is this enough time? He's going to go for the tier 2 vehicle plant. So finally teching up to tier 2, giving him access to tier 2 constructors and metal extractors, which are worth 4 times as much. Big investment yet again, but pays off quickly. The brawl still happening. This is where all the action is right now. Standoff over to the western front. Yeah. Contra continuing to compound his lead. He's produced 18% more metal over the course of the game. And the rally point looking dicey as well. A decisive victory for Contra. Still an army value lead for BARCast, though a lot of that is in fighters as well. Resbot running into some turrets. More stouts coming up. Missile trucks. Has even attempted the tier 2. We'll see what the first tier 2 units are out of the Armada vehicle plant. There's a lot of strong options. Meanwhile, this looks like quite a flank being set up by BARCast to collapse on this army and maybe turn it around and claim the battlefield. Just as important as winning this fight. Well, kind of comes with it, so I guess they're tied together, but I digress. Still blasting at each other. Manages to extract some Dragon Claw turrets. The Lightning turret's very good against the weaker tier 1 units. Resbots doing what they do. Bringing some of the constructors back. Getting into melee range now, the tanks, which means it's going to be very difficult to miss. Friendly fire isn't, to be clear. If a projectile hits you, it doesn't matter where it was fired from. Just something to consider when it comes to all these tanks kind of mashing up against each other. So now, Contra with his consulate of combat engineers behind, assisting with build power to build these. Wow, he's building it so fast. So the metal extractor now 4 times as valuable. That's going to give him around 8 metal a second, if I can do basic math. Indeed, plus 7.6. But here comes a huge push out of BARCast, and he's got a 60% army value lead. Right now, the economic value for Contra is massive, but that leaves BARCast with a big opportunity to break out. He has to be a little suspicious. Yeah, he's got a tier 2 plant on the way himself. But so far, not making too much progress, but claiming this battlefield is a very big deal. He's just reclaiming with the resbots. The commander itself is out there. And I gotta remind, at the end of the day, all you have to do is destroy the commander. That is the win condition. You could technically do that without killing a single other unit or building. I mean, practically that's going to be difficult, but the tanks exchanging fire around the edge of the cliff, getting jammed up against it. The tanks can go up the ramps there, but clearly having a tough time. Overwhelming. The conga line of stouts is enough to grind through. And how much metal is on the ground? Wow, 5.57. army value almost double for BARCast right now, as he doesn't have knowledge about the tier 2. In fact, he barely knows anything about the main base. He has to suspect it. There's no reason that a player that has had control of the map for this long, there's an obvious reason why he's not able to contest it. It's tier 2. The question is when those tier 2 units show up. He's got some bull heavy assault tanks coming out, as well as Jaguars. The Jaguar. A lightning tank speeding right by and melting through. Meanwhile, a lot of the tanks have dug too deep and too greedily, and the stouts will be taken out by another legion of pawns. Light laser turrets, pale in comparison to fast lightning turrets. They'll make things a little more complicated. Those lightning tanks clearing out the bottom left corner. Meanwhile, the major push adds some bulls into the mix. Like a bull in a commander shop. Blasting through. Those pods are not going to survive this. That bull with some AoE on its attack and a very rapid attack speed. Yeah. 270 damage a hit. I don't think pawns have much more health than that. And it does significant AoE damage around it. Bulls just blasting through. They're also great against the lightning tanks. They're pretty quick as well. Probably the strongest spammable vehicle in the game. I like them even more than the Tiger tanks out of Cortex, because the bull just has... They're more expensive, but they feel like they can just take out tier 1 units with ease. Kind of invalidating. And the commander is out in the midst of everything. Still has that disintegration gun that could potentially take out valuable units, but just being exposed at all opens up some opportunities, and BARCast is turning it around. His tanks up to the north, holding to the south. Overall, the map has been significantly contracted for Contra, who's continuing to rally out, but the walls are closing in a bit. He does have the advantage of a lot more advanced metal extractors. Right now, he's produced over 22% more metal, amounting to around 16,000 so far. But that's quickly changing with the addition of tier 2 metal extractors for BARCast. Oh, a single ball, 14 kills on a rampage to the south. And a single ball can do uncomfortable amounts of damage to your economy if left unchecked. But the only counter to a bad dude with a bull is an even badder dude with a badder bull. Either way, takes it out. Could resurrect it, reclaim it, or just leave it there as a monument to victories past. And a bit of a slowdown, as both players now have similar tech. Contra still has the economic advantage. BARCast has lost his massive army value advantage, but he made a lot of progress with it. He carved out some space to get tier 2 extractors. He reformed a line down the center. That's consistently being tested by tier 1 and 2 units out of Contra. The vision is still a mixed bag for either side. Struggling to even get radar, as the radar towers are very difficult to maintain against constant run-bys. The bull being surrounded. Trades with one, another one pulling back. And now as the incomes grow, we have to start thinking about tier 3 potentially eventually. I think we're still kind of far off that. But it's not out of the question. The energy production is still relatively low for it. The experimental gantries are almost 10,000 metal in and of themselves. Is that right, or am I way overblowing it? No, 7,900. So, let alone the units. The southwestern corner is a dead zone. No metal extractors. Mostly just unreclaimed wrecks. They're constantly fighting over it. More advanced metal extractors. And Contra has still maintained the lead throughout this. The triple production has 4 production facilities now for every sort of unit, and constantly producing the spammable ticks in order. Oh, ticks and rascals If the most active version of scouting is sending very cheap units out to their death on a rally point. But you know what's not cheap? All these... The tier 2 constructor and all its consulate, 250 metal apiece, and the constructor is 550. Trying to put up one of these Gauss cannons. A dangerous unit. Well, a dangerous defense, but without anything in front of it, the bulls will rip right through it. And now the constructors themselves, he's got another Gauss cannon. Trying to target it down. Might be able to get the constructor. I don't know if he can get the second cannon. Meanwhile, something similar happened up to the top right corner. I get another cannon taken out. The bull's getting through, but one bull, he saved the construction bot, at least for now. 2 more bulls to the south. As they lock horns yet again. A little uncomfortable. Blasting through around the mountain. Contra continues rallying up to the northern side. The laser turrets are helping out a lot against the tier 1, but eventually they will be overrun at this rate, especially when the bull comes around the corner. 2 survived, but another one looking to counter. Takes out another metal extractor. This construction bot surviving is incredibly helpful. The army value is dead even at 17k, but Contra maintains a way higher metal a second, as he has throughout this entire match. 27% more metal produced. And we see it translating onto the field. There's a single shredder, literally called the shredder, anti-air flak vehicle, knocking out some of the fighters just patrolling around the center. Meanwhile, more bulls blasting to the north. But since they have access to very similar unit compositions, so far, I'm not sure where the advantage can come for BARCast. All the sliders, not the be-all, end-all, but they certainly indicate who's favored. All the sliders headed towards the red. But BARCast is not yet dead. He still has bulls. One good run by that gets to the economy, or knocks out a significant chunk of the metal extractors. That's the ticket there. Having the extra vision just blasting through so much. He might even get the resbots almost accidentally. Another bull taken out. Another metal extractor taken down as well. He knows they're coming. But he doesn't have much vision of exactly what's behind it. It's hard to calculate whether or not you should actually commit to a fight. Especially when the ticks continue swarming over all the radar towers. But he's holding. Another horde of bulls. The rascals getting poked down by the laser turrets. But these bulls represent quite a threat. The total cost 6,000 metal. This is a big chunk of the army. If he can crush this, then that's a... Yeah, I'm not sure where he's looking to go. Actually, quite a lackadaisical run by here. He takes out 4 out of 5 bulls for the cost of none. Which is, you know, pretty good trade. Not too many of those nowadays. Meanwhile, more coming through. The metal extractors, of course, are valuable. 8 metal a second adds up quickly. And you know, the problem here is that bulls are exactly the same speed as bulls. And that's not bullshit. That's just a fact right there. Gonna be hard to catch up with them. Meanwhile, more coming through. Some Gauss cannons looking to stop them in their tracks. And I can't help but feel like Contra is maybe getting a little lazy even with his control. I don't know if that's a fair distinction, but some gremlin stealth tanks will go right by. But the gremlins could sneak by. Unfortunately, they will be revealed immediately. Stealth tanks do not show up on radar, and they remain cloaked unless you get within the detection radius, which is that little orange circle. But they run directly by. There's no super easy way to deal with them, besides the fact that if they somebody gets within sniffing distance, they keel over with just a few shots from pretty much anything. They're effectively the Dark Templar of Bar. Unfortunately, you can't warp them in. BARCast, the energy production is 55 versus 5100. Oh no, no. The cloaking device is deactivated as he runs through the balls. Where is he looking though? Towards the other side. What? What are those? The fighters? I'm not even sure. Did he self-destruct? Something happened down the center, but again, BARCast maintains the army supply. A forward bot lab tick spam in order to be as annoying as possible. We see both sides through the center. The fighters patrolling, just in case. You always have to have them, otherwise you run the risk of just getting run over by things like gunships. The balls will be contested. On the high ground is a potential for maybe some forward defenses. But so far, BARCast has been all about quality over quantity. Strong units in the right place at the right time, whereas Contra has been almost exactly the opposite. So far, Contra has killed 400 units and lost 950. But it's been paying off to an extent. But when your army is somewhere in the realm of 120 ticks, well, BARCast still has that army advantage. A gantry is on the way. The experimental gantry with access to tier 3 units. I think Marauders are in our future. It's one of the strongest and fastest units you can get early on. Maybe Razorbacks. I don't think Titans are really going to find a lot of value, but both Marauders and Razorbacks going to have a lot to get done, especially if they come out quickly. But unfortunately, Contra has beat him to the punch, already pumping out Marauders himself. Has half a dozen of them. Amphibious assault mechs. Jaguars. I think reclaimed Jaguars. And Stouts dealing with the ticks. Balls managing to run by. Goes straight to the Razorbacks. The battle mechs with their Gatling lasers that can melt through tier 1 and 2 units alike. The Marauder is much more like a souped up tier 2 unit, whereas the Razorback is a true tier 3. Going to look to engage. Another ball battle. And some Gauss cannon slowing things down. The Razorbacks may come out just in time. Actually, the Gauss turret gonna pick through. Razorback is revealed. Tier 3 unit detected. An important notification for either side. Contra will be the first one to receive it. Managing to get those Gauss cannons up is a huge deal. I don't know how these balls survived this entire time, but actually managed to get through. I don't think they'll make it very far with the Marauder already on point. Speaking of, the Marauders are amphibious, which means they can swim and or walk over... Well, all gantry units technically can walk either or swim through water to varying degrees of effectiveness, but it is no obstacle to them. And now again, the midfield has been cleared as both sides have such strong defenses set up, at least over to the western flank. The east has been much more... Ooh, even some pulsars. The long-range lasers being set up to make sure that any attack must be very committed. BARCast has a 70% army value advantage. Almost double the amount. That is... And the metal per second is actually headed his way. He's weathered the constant attacks throughout the field. And now Contra, where does he have... He knows this is coming. The Marauders are moving in. The commander itself potentially needing a D-gun in order to deal with this. And where has the map gone for Contra? The wrong way, I guess. Metal produced is still within reach. And that army value I keep looking at. The Marauders. Well, this is a pretty easy math problem. Very clearly more here. For Contra. This is the big play right down the center. Wading through the ponds. The ticks trying to overrun. I'm doing a decent amount of damage. Marauders just don't have that much HP. They rely on their speed in order to bully things, but the pawn's in the way, physically blocking, trying to cover for his own marauders, flanking in, more coming across the field. Another wave, trying to trade out, but the marauder count is so damn high. Where's the Razorbacks? A gremlin getting into the main. Marauders cutting down the center. Bulls try to collapse in. Another marauder run by, starting to run into the Gauss cannons, which are having quite an effect on them as well. The ticks are overrunning, activating that flanking damage as well. Some Banshees overhead. The Marauders do have anti-air capability, some little missiles firing off to the top, but it's a numbers game. They're getting swarmed over. Nadiga, the commander, getting personally involved. Though not landing on that last... Oh, you gotta be careful. The commander cloaks. Gets in. Some pinpointers here to make radar more accurate. Looks like the gremlin was taken out. But another wave. The Marauders living up to their names. Just cleaving through, ransacking the base and refusing to elaborate further. But another wave. Being overrun by the ticks. Banshees overhead. BARCast trying to match it with more units. Just not quite enough strength in them to stop the Marauders from making it all the way into the base. But he will be able to stop them from doing any more. And now, well, there's still a very strong... He's actually... Almost all of this force has been reclaimed. Okay, about half and half. A Starlight Tachyon weapon. Essentially a siege javelin. Doing terrible, terrible damage to whatever it targets, but also being very fragile itself. It's essentially a barely mobile turret. The army value still in favor of BARCast. Almost the entire army for Contra is sunk into the Marauders. Starlight overrun. Easily surrounding and killing the bulls. Some of the Banshees trying to get involved. Those are just normal fighters. Knocked out of the sky. Marauders actually working on the army now to great success. Finally picking a fight that's more their size. And a lot of the res bots are going to get melted as well. And the map control being carved away. Contra kept darting in towards the center. It's kind of crazy how little there is now. He's set up such a line of defense over to the western front as well. Multiple pulsars, as well as a line of beamers. Okay, beamer. Behind him, making sure nothing can get by. Razorbacks. Razorbacks coming out. I think a single Razorback can take out probably 4 or 5 Marauders unless the Marauders get a full surround. And with this much cover, as BARCast has 450 units, Contra has 575. That does include buildings on the field. Still far below the limit as they've both been going back and forth. The Marauders going up against the ends of the earth. They literally can't go any further. Getting surrounded by the roughneck gunships. Those are the tier 2 version of the Banshee. Marauders trying to move up to reinforce Razorbacks of his own. Gonna start building some forward pulsars as well. The game's still very much up in the air. Since resources do not mine out, it just comes out, well, killing the commander or denying them so much it's inevitable. But technically the game can go on indefinitely. BARCast still maintaining that army value, but metal production has nearly reached equilibrium overall. Both in current metal production as well as overall throughout the game. And the Razorback just chewing through those Marauders. Don't talk to me or my sons ever again. Or my very small sons. Okay, there's a big family here. Razorbacks being added in from Contra, though, to the north. Looking to contest. Tier 3 battling. With the tier 1 as the peasants underfoot. Let's see if anyone goes for even higher. I guess at this point, Titans are the only potential follow-up. The reason we don't see it, they're just too slow compared to Razorbacks and Marauders. Mobility is king here, as we've seen throughout the entire map. The BARCast maintaining... Enemy Titan detected. Titan clearly just trundling through the water here. Big enough to wade through with most of its weapons. It's actually relevant. If it's tall enough, it can fire all its weapons if they're above the water. The Razorbacks and the Marauders. The Titan is strong, but on its own can be felled. But look at that army value yet again. 85%. Another wave of Marauders is sweeping across the field. The Titan has yet to be spotted, but he's going to get that notification momentarily. Razorbacks moving around the eastern front. Couple Gauss turrets in the way, but nothing too untoward. A wave of ticks on the field, over 100 of them. Reaching a maximum unit count of 1,300 right now. Razorbacks chewing up each other. Those Gatling guns, incredibly high DPS. And they look like it, don't they? Melting through one of their counterparts, but the Titan is blasting as well. Titan with a much longer range set of weapons. Has like a shotgun blaster at close range, and then, of course, that massive laser on its shoulder. BARCast sending a wave of ticks, and he also has some of those vehicles down the center. Might be able to collapse, and right now Contra, he's building Titans of his own. The army value is 224. It's 83,000 metal at 26. All right, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for Contra. Ticks swarming over, making it that much harder to target. Sure, they can work their way through them, but they do have mostly single target weaponry. Trying to wade through the ticks, but the ticks are almost locking them in. Oh no, you're not locked in here with... I'm not... Anyways, there's a lot of ticks. Driving through down the center and clearing up the surviving Marauders. A story of patience out of BARCast may have finally paid off. He managed to build up the right army and keep more of it alive. I mean, the units killed is a little misleading. Not misleading so much as indicating how many ticks have been built throughout the game. But because of the amphibious nature of the Tier 3, BARCast never invested. Look at the defense value. 34,000 invested in defenses, which are just being ignored. He doesn't even care. There's pulsars, there's Gauss cannons, and they're out in literal left field right now. Whereas the main base, with all its incredibly important energy production, is potentially under assault momentarily. Marauders wading through will cut a path through a lot of the metal extractors. More Razorbacks being overrun. Where's the Titan? Titans are marching forward at a more stately pace, yes, but at this point, an advanced fusion reactor coming online. I don't know if BARCast has made any of those. He's got 10,000 energy almost exclusively. Okay, he's got like 8 regular fusions. Much easier to build, though, a little less efficient in the long run, but only in a perfect scenario does it matter. The wind turbines overrun. Contra committing the commander to potential D-guns. Has a Titan of his own, but the economy is shattered. The tick will reveal the commander. Oh, he spotted it. And there he goes. Game over. GG. BARCast strikes back across the board. And the commitment, even though he had map control for so long, the commitment to the defenses and the lack of capitalizing on that control. BARCast clearly had a game plan he was working on and was more efficient across the board, even with the same units throughout the game. We could see that. And there's the overall, this is just metal used. Here is energy, or metal produced. Energy produced, not drawing even until the end. But, let's see. Damage efficiency. A little hard to tell who came out ahead there, but the metal excess, Contra spending all his metal very regularly, but it seems like the quality units eventually beating the quantity of units that Contra was able to put on the field. And he claims Beast of Hades for himself. So, what a game. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully it made your day. a little bit better. Let me know what you'd like to see. Not every match is going to be 40v40 or some ridiculous amount of players. Obviously, a bit unsustainable. We don't get to enjoy the strategy quite as much as the spectacle. But I'm a big fan of both. So, hopefully, you enjoyed. And if you got the means of motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free. At least for now. So thank you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.